Your grandfather could rebuild an engine in the barn with a wrench and a weekend. Your dad could look at a machine, listen to it run, and know exactly what was wrong before he even opened the hood. You call the dealer when the check engine light comes on and hope they can fit you in this week. 3 generations, same family, same land, same work. But somewhere between your or grandfather's workshop and your phone contacts, something disappeared, and it's not coming back. This isn't about lazy farmers. It's not about complicated equipment making repair impossible, though that's part of it. This is about how American farmers went from being the mechanics on their own operations to being customers waiting for someone else to fix their livelihood. And once that gap opened, it didn't close. It widened. With every new model, every software update, every proprietary system, until the distance between what your grandfather could fix and what you can fix became a canyon you can't cross. Fellow farmers who remember the old ones, you've felt this. You've stood beside broken equipment, knowing your grandfather would have had it running by lunch, while you're scheduled for a dealer visit next Tuesday. You've paid $200 an hour for diagnostic work that took the mechanic 20 minutes. You've watched your own operation sit idle waiting for someone else's schedule. It's 3 reasons. 3 changes that seemed small when they happened. 3 shifts that added up to a transformation nobody planned and nobody wanted. But here we are, dependent in ways your grandfather never was, vulnerable in ways he would not recognize. If you watched the last video, you saw the mistake farmers made when they switched equipment. You saw how they handed trust to dealers and stopped questioning. This video shows you exactly where that mistake led. Why farmers today can't fix their own equipment even when they want to, even when they need to. The first reason started small, so small nobody noticed it happening. In 1950, if you opened the hood of a tractor, you saw an engine, metal you could touch, and systems you could understand by looking. Carburetor, distributor, fuel pump. Every part had a purpose you could see. Every connection made mechanical sense. If the carburetor clogged, you could take it apart on the fender, clean the jets, blow out the passages, put it back together. No dealer needed, no diagnostic computer. Just eyes, hands, and knowledge your father taught you the same way his father taught him. Your grandfather didn't fix things because he was smarter than you. He fixed things because the equipment let him. Because everything that controlled that tractor, ignition timing, fuel mixture, throttle response, was physical, visible, touchable, understandable. Then computers arrived. Not all at once, gradually, first in the expensive machines, then in everything. And suddenly opening the hood meant seeing black boxes, electronic control units, sensor networks, systems that talk to each other through code you couldn't read and protocols you didn't understand. The engine was still there, but between you and that engine sat a computer. And between you and that computer sat a dealer with the only software that could talk to it. The equipment changed from mechanical to electronic, from systems you could diagnose by looking and listening, to systems that required software you didn't have and couldn't buy. Every manufacturer built their own proprietary diagnostic system. Every system required dealer-level access. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, the farmer stopped being the mechanic and became the customer. Which are fellow farmers. You know exactly when this happened on your operation. The moment you realized the problem wasn't the part, it was the computer that controlled the part. And fixing the computer meant calling someone with access you'd never have. Your grandfather could fix a fuel system with a screwdriver. You need a laptop and dealer-level software just to tell the fuel system it's okay to start. That's not your failure. That's design. And it was designed this way on purpose. What's the newest piece of equipment you've successfully repaired yourself? When was the last time you fixed something without calling anyone? Be honest in the comments. This matters more than people admit. The second reason hit even harder. Because this one was about knowledge. And once knowledge stops passing down, it doesn't come back. Your great-grandfather taught your grandfather how to repair equipment the same way he taught him how to plow. By doing it together, in the field. When things broke and had to be fixed right then because the crop was still standing and weather was coming. That wasn't classroom learning, that was necessity teaching urgency. Your grandfather learned because he had to, because if he didn't learn, the work didn't get done. And the learning stuck because he used it every season for the rest of his life. He taught your dad the same way. Maybe not everything. The equipment was getting more complex. The repairs were getting more specialized. Well, but your dad still learned the basics. How to troubleshoot, how to diagnose, how to think through a problem mechanically, what to check first, what usually failed, what could wait, and what couldn't. Then something shifted. Your dad tried to teach you. He brought you to the barn, showed you the tools, started explaining how things worked. But halfway through, he had to stop because the equipment didn't work that way anymore. Because the repair manual said dealer service only on half the pages. Because the machine wouldn't even tell you what was wrong without dealer software. So the teaching stopped. Not because your dad didn't want to pass it down, not because you didn't want to learn, but because the equipment itself had moved beyond what could be taught in a barn with tools and time. And here's what nobody tells you about lost knowledge. It doesn't skip a generation and then come back. Once the chain breaks, it breaks. Your kids won't learn what you didn't learn, and their kids won't learn what your kids didn't know to teach. 3 generations. That's all it took. From your great-grandfather, who could rebuild anything, to your grandfather, who could fix most things, to your dad, who could handle basic repairs, to you, standing beside broken equipment with a phone in your hand. The knowledge didn't slowly fade. It fell off a cliff. Because once equipment required dealer access, teaching your son how to fix it became impossible. You can't teach what you were locked out of. Yeah, what repair knowledge did your dad actually manage to pass down to you? What can you still fix that your grandfather could fix? This knowledge gap affects every farm in America. Share what you still know below. The third reason is the one nobody talks about. Because it makes farmers look bad. But it's the truth and it needs saying. For a while, you could still choose. The equipment was getting more complex, but you could still learn it if you insisted. The knowledge chain was breaking, but you could still demand that your kids pay attention. You could still maintain independence if you fought for it. But then the economics changed. And once the economics made dependence cheaper than independence, the choice was already made. Well, think about it. Your grandfather spent every winter in the workshop, rebuilding, maintaining, fabricating parts that weren't available, keeping equipment running that should have been replaced. He did this because hiring someone was expensive and slow, because mechanics were scarce in rural areas, because waiting for parts meant losing work windows. So he taught himself, built expertise through necessity, maintained independence because dependence wasn't an option. But by your dad's generation, that math was changing. Dealers got faster, parts networks got better. Service trucks started coming to the farm instead of you hauling equipment to town. And suddenly, calling the dealer wasn't 3-day disruption anymore. It was a scheduled appointment. Maybe even same-day service if you were a good customer. Why spend a weekend in the workshop learning systems you'd only use once when you could call someone who fixes them every day? Why maintain expertise in diesel injection when the dealer mechanic has seen 100 of these failures and can fix it in an hour? The economics made sense for a while, but then the convenience became dependence. The occasional dealer call became routine. The routine became the only option. And somewhere in that transition, you lost the ability to choose. Now when equipment breaks during harvest, you don't fix it yourself because you can't. The dealer can't come until tomorrow because 3 other farmers called first, and your crop sits while you wait. But not because you're lazy, not because you're incompetent, but because the choice was made years ago, one convenient dealer call at a time. Fellow farmers, this isn't criticism. This is just what happened. The economics made dependence logical, until it wasn't. Until the dealer was overbooked and you couldn't wait and you realized you'd traded independence for convenience and couldn't trade back. When's the last time you had to wait for a dealer during a critical work window? How long? What did it cost in time or lost crop? This is the hidden cost of convenience. Share your story below. 3 reasons, 3 changes, 3 shifts that happened gradually enough that nobody raised alarm. The equipment went from mechanical to electronic. Push from systems you could understand by looking to systems that required dealer software you'd never access. The knowledge stopped passing from father to son. Because once equipment requires dealer access, teaching your kid how to fix it becomes impossible. The chain broke, and broken chains don't repair themselves. The economics made dependence feel logical, convenient, smart even, until the convenience became a trap and the logic reversed and you realized you'd traded the independence your grandfather built for a spot in someone else's schedule. And now you can't go back. The equipment won't let you. The knowledge is gone. The economics still favor dependence until the moment they don't. And then it's too late. But your grandfather wasn't better than you. He wasn't smarter. He wasn't more capable. He just lived in a time when equipment could still be understood, when knowledge could still be taught, when independence was still possible. You live in a time when equipment is locked behind software, when knowledge is owned by corporations, when independence is called tampering and convenience is called efficiency, and dependence is called normal. This is what the mistake led to. The mistake from the last video. When farmers handed trust to dealers and stopped maintaining expertise and let convenience replace independence. This is where that mistake took us. Well, but here's the question that nobody asks. If farmers wanted to go back, if you wanted to reclaim the independence your grandfather had, could you? Or is that door closed now? Have the changes gone too far? Some farmers are trying, learning to code, buying right to repair equipment, teaching themselves electronics, building new expertise for a new era. But it's hard, it's expensive, and it's a fight against corporations that profit from your dependence. What equipment can you still work on yourself? What's locked behind dealer access? What knowledge did your family lose? Share below. Because if enough farmers talk about this, maybe we start taking back what was given away. The next video shows where this dependence led, on why new technology didn't save small farms even though it promised it would, why the economics that made dependence logical eventually broke the operations that embraced it. That one's coming soon. Fellow farmers, stay close.